أن يعرف هل قال الرسول فعلا الفرقة الناجية صفتها كذا وكذا. ما أنا عليه وأصحابي ليس عنده طريق إطلاقا إلا عقله، ولذلك بدأ بفلسفة الإنسانية المشتركة إلى آخره والعقل.
Now, these individuals, these misguided groups, they will not accept these hadith or those ahadith that go against them, because they want to bring their own philosophy. Don't you remember what the second Hizb at-Tahreer said when he wanted to open the discussion? He said, he started talking about we must understand the philosophy and of the Greeks and Aristotle and Plato, and he started going that far. Subhanallah. Why? Going through that angle, when all he has to do is go back to Qur'an and Sunnah in the understanding of the companions. Why are you going to the Greeks and the philosophy of Aristotle and Plato and all these ones, when Allah has not ordered you to go there and to look at their philosophy in understanding how to solve solution in your society? Don't go there. The solution is already put in the Qur'an. Nothing is left out from the Qur'an and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
لأنه هنا في مجال فعلا أنا أسأل سؤال وهو لا يستطيع أن يجيب بما أجاب صاحبه.
So the second one that we discussed with himself wasn't even able to answer, just like the first one. The first one we asked him how many times? Do you disagree with the verse? That if we differ amongst ourselves, we go back to Quran and Sunnah. Do you disagree with this verse? He couldn't answer. Second one couldn't answer. The third one, which we did yesterday, again, right at the end. And then he said, then he agreed. Right at the end, after what? After a whole hour discussion.
الذي كان متسترا فلما سألنا العقل مختلف عن عقلك فهل هناك عقل موحد نعود إليه.
And I said to them, and that one that was actually hiding, from being exposed, because we didn't know that he was actually with them, but in the end it became clear. I said to him, which aql, which intellect do we follow then? If you're saying the solution of the problem of the Ummah, we have to go back to the intellect, because that is the reference point that we will use to understand the problems of the Ummah. Then whose intellect we're going to go to? Your one or my one or his or such and such? Which intellect? He couldn't answer. And in the end of the day, whichever one we follow, we will still not understand the correct position, because aql is not a reference point for us anyway, he says. But the reference point is going back to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the understanding of the companions. And the famous narration of Ali radiallahu anhu. If this deen was built upon aql, then we would have wiped the bottom of the socks and not the top. When we wipe over the socks, what do we wipe off? The top. This is the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If this deen was built upon mere aql, intellect, we would have wiped the bottom, because your aql tells you to wipe the bottom, because that is what gets dirty. But look, the deen is not built upon aql. It is built upon the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is revelation. قال الله, قال رسول الله, قال الصحابة. As Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, العلم قال الله قال رسوله قال صحابته ليس بالتمويه ما العلم نصبك لخلاف سفاهة بين الرسول وبين رأي فلان أو فقيه. That knowledge is what Allah said, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and the companions said. This is knowledge. Whoever brings you this is knowledge. And it is foolishness, he said, to compare the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with any other person, even if he's a scholar. Statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can't compare it with any other man's statement, because his statement is final.
العقل مشتق كما تعلمون من العقل فما دام العقول مختلفة إذا بما لا نعقله بأي وسيلة نعقله ليس عندنا إلا النص القرآني فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول. رجعنا إلى الرسول في معرفة الفرقة الناجية. لا هذا حديث مو صحيح.
So if we say to them, go back to the hadith of the 73 sects that split Ummah in 73 sects, this hadith not sahih. They won't accept that. And believe me, ya ikhwan, there's takfiri. In North London, he said this hadith is da'if. Hadith of Irbad himself is da'if. He don't accept ijma' of Sahaba. This is what they are upon, these individuals. Because they are not firmly grounded upon knowledge.
تركناه جانبا وستفترق أمتي عفوا وإنه من يعش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا.
And then he mentioned the other hadith which they also don't like. Well, after me, this hadith of Irbad ibn Sariya. Irbad radiallahu anhu, he was sick. And when he narrated this hadith to the tabi'in, two of the tabi'in, they came to him, they said, we came to you, ji'naka muqtabisin, to benefit, a'idin, to visit the sick. We came to you, a'idain, because there were two of them, to visit the sick. And also muqtabisain, and also to benefit from you. So advise us from a hadith that you heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Irbad radiallahu anhu said, one day we prayed Fajr with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he turned and faced us. And he gave us an exhortation, a sermon. وعظنا رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم بموعظة ظرفت منها العيون. Due to that exhortation, our eyes were flowing with tears. ووجلت منها القلوب, and our hearts were moved with fear of Allah because of this statement, because of this exhortation. ووجلت منها القلوب. قلنا يا رسول الله, we said, O Messenger of Allah, advise us. أوصينا. Prophet said, أوصيكم بتقوى الله, I advise you with the piety of Allah, to be muttaqi, to be from the muttaqeen. I advise you with the taqwa of Allah, was-sam' wat-ta'a, and to hear and obey your leaders. وَإِن تَأَمَّرَ عَلَيْكُمْ عَبْدٌ حَبَشِيٌّ, even if an Abyssinian slave were to rule over you. And in one wording it says, his head is like zabiba, like a raisin. Because even if he's Abyssinian slave, then you should hear and obey him. So long as he's a leader, you should hear and obey him. Of course, in the righteous matters, not in haram. In the righteous matters. فَإِنَّ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ فَسَيْرَ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. For those who live after me will see many differences. Like nowadays, we see many differences. Everybody is doing whatever he likes to do. This mosque does this, that one does that, this one does that, that one does that, how he likes. So what is the solution then? فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ. Upon you to follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs, the 4 khalifas. Because their sunnah is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they unite. مِن بَعْدِ عَضُّ عَلَيْهَا. He didn't say عَضُّ عَلَيْهِمَا, bite onto 2 of them. He said bite onto it, made it singular, because they're the same. عَضُّ عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِدِ وَجَمَوْ لَطِيف. Because, and be warned of the newly invented matters, for every newly invented matter is an innovation, and every innovation is a misguidance. That hadith is in Musnad Imam Ahmad, and is in the Kitab al-Sunnah of Abu Dawood, Sunnah Abi Dawood, and you'll find it in the Muqaddimah of Ibn Majah. And the hadith again is sahih. Due to the supporting narrations, it is sahih. But notice now, they don't like this hadith again, because it goes against them, because they want to bring their own understanding.
فماذا نفعل يا رسول الله؟ قال فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين. ما هو طريق معرفة ما كان عليه الخلفاء الراشدون؟ هو طريق الإسناد. هو ليس عنده هذا الطريق.
So, what is the way in knowing this hadith is authentic? It's because of isnad, of knowing the chain of narration that this hadith is sahih. And the ulama of hadith have said it's sahih. But they don't have this methodology of knowing a hadith is being sahih or not. Why? Because they're following, as they themselves are saying, their intellect in understanding the Qur'an and the Sunnah.
لا طريق أبدا هو رجل يعني تتقاذفه الأمواج والرياح العاصفة.
So Shaykh Albani rahimahullah said, what's the solution then for these individuals who don't take the authentic narrations and who use their intellect in understanding the narrations and the verses from the Qur'an? They're going to be just like the feather that is moved by the wind. It's going to take them here, it's going to take them there. You know what I mean? Without a foundation, it's not firm. It's just going to go. Have you ever seen a feather in the wind? Just going everywhere and anywhere. And just like that boat, in rough sea, where is it going to go? It's going to go wherever the sea takes it, wherever the waves take it. Just like that. And that's why we said to you, that even though they changed to a different methodology, over the years, Hizb at-Tahreer changing, even though or parts of their members changing from Hizb at-Tahreer to Muhajirun to Firqat al-Najah as they call it, even though it's just going with the wind. It's just going with the wind. That's all it is. And it's just going with the flow of the waves.
فإذا لازم المسلم يكون ماشي على سبيل المؤمنين. فسبيل المؤمنين مجمعون لا خلاف بينهم أن طريق تلقي الحديث عن الرسول عليه السلام هو ما جرى أهل السنة والمعتزلة والخوارج كلهم يرجعون إلى الإسناد. أما هذا معتزلي آخر الزمان فلما تأمل ووجد أن دراسة هذا الطريق صعب جدا ولذلك تجد.
And also nice benefit he mentioned. He said the groups in the past, even the misguided ones, we say all of them are misguided except the one on the right path, Qur'an, Sunnah. But he means even those that are really deviated like Mu'tazila, even of the past, they used to say Qur'an and Sunnah. But likewise they would use their intellect to accept or reject. But the ones nowadays, he says that they are worse. The ones nowadays are worse. And that's why the tape is called Afrakh al-Mu'tazila. The chicks of the Mu'tazila. Not even chicken. The chicks of the Mu'tazila. Why? Because if the Mu'tazila of the past were to see their followers nowadays, they'll be ashamed of them. Because the ones nowadays, they are disgraceful in not even accepting clear narrations and try to use philosophy, just as Abu Yasir, philosophy in order to reject most of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who said that we don't accept the narrations of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu? More than 5,000 narrations is going to reject. Who said that we reject the narrations of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma from the ones who narrated the ahadeeth the most? نعم والمكثرون في رواية الأثر أبو هريرة ويليه ابن عمر. After Abu Huraira is Ibn Umar, as the poet said, with regards those who narrate the most hadith, and Jabir and Khudri والبحر نعم وعائشة زوجة النبي. These are from the mukthirun. If they're not taken from the mukthirun, that means they rejected many ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of what? Their aql.
أكثر علماء المسلمين لا يستطيعون أن يميزوا الصحيح من الضعيف لأنه. And
also he said that the later ones, the later Mu'tazila, because that's what they are, they don't even have the tools to know what hadith is sahih and da'if, how to know the hadith sahih. They don't even have these tools. Just like one of the followers he mentioned in the past, he was with them. He said, when he came back, and he heard from others actually, when he came back from another country and he heard from others that Umar Bakr had changed. Now that they believe, now they punish the grave now. Now he says we take it as a part of belief. But what happened? Well, changing from one position to another, just like that. SubhanAllah, after trying to refute the Salafis, by going to some of the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, and other than them, and then finding out that you were wrong in the first place. So what's just chopping and changing? And still chopping and changing. And this one, the Yemeni one, Anwar Awlaki, He said the signs of the saved sect is suicide bombing. This is his sign of saved sect. Look how confused these people are. The sign of the saved sect, what happened to Aqidah comes first. What if he does suicide bombing, he doesn't have direct Aqidah? What if he does suicide bombing and his tawheed is messed up? He does shirk and so on. How can this be the saved sect then? Subhanallah. So Aqidah comes first, if only they knew. And their understanding of suicide bombing is corrupt. We say it's haram to kill yourself with your own hands. If somebody else kills you, that's something else. But to kill yourself with your own hands is forbidden. The man did it in a battlefield. Some Sahaba thought he was a brave warrior and in paradise. But the Prophet said he's in the hellfire. When they found out, one of the companions actually had followed his marks. He said he was injured. He put a dagger to he couldn't face the pain. He put a dagger to his body and he killed himself. So because of that, he's in the hellfire. Prophet ﷺ already said he's in the hellfire, knowing that. So he killed himself with his own hands. So therefore, suicide bombing is not a sign of the saved sect. It's a sign of the corrupted sect. It's the opposite is true. Because Ahlul Sunnah don't believe in this as a means of change and as a means of bringing rectification. And what good does it do? You kill one, they kill 10. You kill 10, they kill 100. What good has it done? So even the end result of it is going to cause more harm than good. And who do you end up killing? Innocent people, women, children, old, Muslims, non-Muslims, everyone indiscriminately. Is this Islam? Did Rasulullah ﷺ put suicide bomb around himself, even though he lived under persecution? Did he do that? No. Did the Sahaba do that? No. Did the Tabi'in do that? No. Did the Tabi'in do that? No. And even the Sahabi radiallahu anhu, that was catapulted into the enemy. They say, oh look, suicide this is. No, Ya Abdullah. If you knew the reason why he did that. He only was catapulted into the enemy ranks in order to open the door for the rest of the Sahaba to come in and defeat the enemy. That's why his motive was not, alright, I'm going to the enemy, which one is going to kill me? Go on. It wasn't like that. It was, I want to go over to the enemy ranks, over the wall, in order to open the door for the rest of the Sahaba to come through. So it wasn't suicide for the sake of suicide. It was him going into the ranks of the enemy in order to open the door for the Muslims, or the gates for the Muslims. So where did they get their proof for suicide? And whether it is the hadith of the ghulam, of the boy, who said, they tried to kill him in his time. And Qardawi uses this as proof to say that it's allowed to do suicide. And it is a weak proof for him. And for any one of those who claim suicide is allowed. Qardawi says that this hadith is a proof that suicide bombing is allowed. We say to him, just as Shaykh Salih Fawzan says to him, and Shaykh Abdul Masih Abbad says to him, and the other scholars say to him, that this hadith, you cannot use it. What is this hadith? The boy, Na'am, they wanted to kill. It's a long story, but to cut it short, they wanted to kill him. His people wanted to kill him, because he had knowledge and so on and so forth. They wanted to kill him, but they couldn't. They threw him over a cliff, he didn't die. They tried to drown him, he didn't die. Whatever they tried to do, they didn't kill him. Then he said, I will tell you that if you, I will tell you a way which you are able to kill me. If you say, gather the people first, and say, Bismillah, Rabbi Ghulam. Bismillah, the Lord of this boy. And then throw your arrow, and then you'll be able to kill me. So they gathered the people, and they did that. In the end, they were able to kill him. The people all became Muslim. Subhanallah. Look at the good that came out of that. They used this hadith to say, look, suicide bombing is allowed. This boy, first of all, look at the good that came out of it, number one. Number two, he didn't kill himself with his own hands, did he? They killed him with their hands. That's number two. So they have no proof from the Qur'an or the Sunnah to prove that it is allowed to kill yourself with your own hands. It is haram. It is haram. It is haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, and don't kill yourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, and don't cause destruction with your own hands. That's clear proof. And the Salaf understanding, Sahaba understanding, they never killed themselves with their own hands. They never did that.
وطويل معرفة مصطلح الحديث وتراجم رجال الحديث وأني بالألوف المؤلفة كما ربما عرفت حتى هذه اللحظة، فإذا ما عنده إلا أفكار طائشة وليست هي بالتي تستحق أن تسمى بالأوهام، فضلا أن تكون حقائق علمية. فإذا أنا ما فهمت الآن ما هو المنهج العلمي الذي يسلكه هذا الإنسان ليقول هذا ثبت عن رسول الله. قلتم آنفا السنة العملية،
تواتر العمل. تواتر العمل.
التواتر العملي. طيب ما هو الجواب بالنسبة للحج؟
Nah. Anyway, we'll stop there inshallah because of the time. And now is يعني إشراق. You can pray 2 rak'ahs before you leave. Don't lose that. Don't lose that benefit, inshallah. And also, you can see if the sun has any rays or not, to see if yesterday was Laylatul Qadr. So as you're going out, if anyone sees the sun coming out without any rays, that is a sign that yesterday was Laylatul Qadr, inshallah. And yesterday, another sign is that it was peaceful night. Another sign as well for Laylatul Qadr is that it is not too cold. It is cool night. And on Laylatul Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger said that angels descend and fill the lowest heavens. They fill the lowest heavens. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us in these 10 nights, that we reach Laylatul Qadr, and that Allah forgives us and accepts this from us. Wallahu alam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ala khayri khalqi Muhammad wa akhiru alhamdulillah bil alamin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Before we continue with the discussion of Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah with the Hizb at-Tahreer number 4, we've already gone through the first 3 of the heads of the Hizb at-Tahrir in Jordan, debating with Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, and this morning inshallah we'll go over the 4th one. But before we do that, just some questions regarding Hizb at-Tahrir. One of the questions is, that in the past, and this is something which we witnessed over 18 years ago in this country, they used to say that Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is not from the Sahaba. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiyallahu anhuma, a Sahabi, the son of a Sahabi. His father was a companion, Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu. And his son, Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, became a Muslim before his father. And the reason why they used to say he's not a Sahabi is they would have their own definition of what a companion is. And that definition, they would say, is he who lived with the Messenger ﷺ for 2 years. He who lived with Rasulullah ﷺ for 2 years. This is what, in those days, Umar Bakr used to teach his followers, from the followers of Hizb at-Tahrir. Now what is on today, whether it's changed or whatever, we are refuting this point, what they were upon before. And this is how the scholars are. Even if a deviation is before and it's still spread amongst the people, then it still should be refuted until the Day of Judgment. Why? Because this shows you that they are not firmly established upon the correct methodology and correct aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. To chop and change in matters of Sahaba radiallahu anhum, this is dangerous. To chop and change in matters of aqeedah, this is dangerous. To chop and change in matters of manhaj, of methodology, this is dangerous. Rather, from the beginning, the foundation must be clear. As Shaykh Albani rahimahullah said in his discussion here with the first 3 amongst them, that everything should be taken back to the Qur'an and the Sunnah in the understanding of the companions. Why the understanding of the companions? Why not yours or mine? Your or my understanding? Because the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are the best people ever to be from the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah praised them in the Qur'an. Allah said, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. The Sabiqun, the first to accept Islam. Al-Awwalun min al-Muhajirin, from the migrators, wal-Ansar, the helpers of Medina, and those that follow them upon righteousness. Radiyallahu anhum. Allah is pleased with them. Waradu an, and they are pleased with Him. Allah is pleased with them. This is sufficient witness. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا. And Allah is sufficient as a witness that they are the best people ever to be. So, who is a companion then? Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, he mentions a hadith that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, طُوبَى لِمَنْ رَآنِي وَآمَنَ بِي. Glad tidings to the one who saw me and believed in me. And what it means here, who saw me, it means who met me. Because amongst the companions there are those who are blind. And they are still Sahaba. They didn't see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they believed in him. And they died upon Iman. So they are still considered to be Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So what is meant by this hadith is those who met me and died upon Iman. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He prayed behind him. He prayed behind him in the salah. He wrote ahadeeth. And he became Muslim before his father became a Muslim. And his mother Habiba radiallahu anha, she is the mother of the believers. She is from the mother of the believers. Yani, she married the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is called the uncle of the believers. Khal al-Mu'mineen. And for anyone now to come and criticize this Sahabi, he has now opened the door to criticizing the rest of the companions. As Abu Tawbat al-Halabi, from the Salaf scholars, he said, indeed, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan is a curtain for the companions of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whoever lifts this curtain will have the audacity to speak about those behind it. Will have the audacity to speak about those behind it. Why is it they don't want to accept him as Sahabi? Why do the political activists, whoever they may be, whether they are Hizb at-Tahreer or Muhajirun, or whether they are Ikhwan al-Muslimun, whoever they may be from the political activists, the Jama'at al-Takfir or Jihad, why would anyone have a problem with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu and Amr ibn As radiallahu anhu? Because the leader who also spoke against him, his name is Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah, he said a statement about Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And he said a statement also about, and he said a statement also about Amr ibn As. I'm going to read to you exactly the words, so that with the reference and page number, so you know exactly where to go. Sayyid Qutb already lifted that curtain by speaking about Muawiyah, and he then spoke about Uthman also, radiallahu anhu. Why Uthman as well? Because of politics. They would speak about Sahaba because of politics. If it doesn't go along with their own politics, based upon their intellect, as Shaykh Albani cleared and clarified. What did Sayyid Qutb say about Uthman? He said, and we tend to the opinion that the Khilaafah of Ali radiallahu anhu was the natural extension of the Khilaafah of the two Sheikhs, yani Abu Bakr and Umar. And the era between the era of Uthman, and the time period of Uthman was merely a gap in between. It was merely a gap. In the Arabic is thulma, just a gap between who? Between Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu and Ali. Yani in between them, Uthman, his Khilaafah is only a gap. Wait. That is in his book called al-Adalat al-Ijtima'iyya, page 206, 5th edition. Just so that if any other edition, you know exactly where the edition is. Sayyid Qutb also said, and it is unfortunate, I'm quoting, that the Khilafah came to Uthman when he was an old man. An old man. His determination had weakened and did not reach the goals intended by Islam. The goals intended by Islam. And his resolve was too weak to steadfastly face the plots of Marwan and the plots of the Umayyads, or the Umayyads beyond that. And that is in Adalat al-Ijtima'iyya, page 186, 5th edition. Sayyid Qutb further says, indeed it was a trial that Ali was not the third of the rightly guided caliphs. It's a trial that Ali was not the third. Why? Because of politics. Why am I mentioning this? Because there is a connection between all of these political activists. They would go as far as criticizing Sahaba because of politics. They put politics and the intellect in front of قال Allah, قال Rasulullah, قال Sahaba, in understanding. And I'll give you proof for that. Nasallahu salama. That was regarding Uthman radiallahu anhu. And I want to read to you as well regarding, exactly regarding as well, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and Amr ibn As radiallahu anhuma. May Allah be pleased with all of the Sahaba. And we love them, and may Allah make in our hearts only love for them, and not have any ghil, any hatred or ill feeling to any of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. For they were the best people ever to be. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them as the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Compare now, and it's not just Sayyid Qutb, also Mawdudi, another political activist. In his book Al-Khilaafah wal-Mulk, when he accused Muawiyah with deception, page 66, page 78, and page 84, and said of him, Muawiyah has clearly gone against the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, page 113. Mawdudi further said, Muawiyah took on board, due to his political gains, what opposes a part of the legislation, page 113. Sayyid Qutb, in his book Kutub wa Shakhsiyat, he said, and when Muawiyah and his companion, referring to Amr ibn As, were established upon lies, cheating, deception, hypocrisy, bribery, and the selling of the Muslims' honor, Ali did not go down to this lowest level. Page 242. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is what they say about the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Because of what? Politics. And don't be surprised then when Hizb at-Tahreer, when Umar Bakri was teaching his followers in this country, in England, and we bear witness to this 18 years ago, and we are still alive and we are still being fed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's still providing for us, and we are still drinking water. We're still alive to testify to this, and Allah is our witness what they were upon. If they chop and change, we know what they're doing. And this is why when we say to you what they are upon of overemphasizing politics, not just any politics, the Machiavellian politics of socialists. Whenever an issue comes up, Iraq war, let's all march. Did the Sahaba march? No. Did the Sahaba demonstrate? No. Then why you do that? What is your da'wah? Politics or Tawheed and Sunnah? What is your da'wah? Is it the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. And this is for the ruler and the ruled, not just the rulers, because many, you'll hear them concentrating on the rulers. But the rulers, but the rulers, but the rulers. But the rulers, but the rulers, but the rulers. Everybody is responsible, Ya Abdullah. The rulers and the ruled. You see, we don't say the rulers are not responsible. We don't say that. That's not the way of Ahlul Sunnah. We say everybody is responsible. Just as Rasulullah ﷺ said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعْيَتِهِ. Everybody is responsible. And everybody who's responsible has a duty to his flock. And in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the leader has responsibility. The woman in a household has responsibility. The husband, the father in the house has responsibility. All the way down to the servant in the household has responsibility to his master's position. From the ruler all the way down to the servant. ألا كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Indeed, every one of you is responsible, and every one of you is responsible to his flock. So we all have to rule by Allah's law. Not just the rulers. They must rule by Allah's law, and you in your household must rule by Allah's law. You in your da'wah must rule by Allah's law. What is Allah's law in the da'wah? To go on march? To demonstrate? To call the people to politics? Or the first thing you should be doing, call the people to the worship of Allah alone. Tawheed. And keep away from shirk. Sunnah. And keep away from bid'ah. Loving obedience to the Messenger ﷺ, and keep away from disobedience to Rasulullah ﷺ. Isn't this the da'wah of Rasulullah ﷺ? Tasfiyah wa tarbiyah. Purification and education. A man in the time of the Messenger ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ heard him say, Ma sha Allah wa shi'ta ya Rasulullah. What Allah willed and you willed, O Messenger of Allah. Rasulullah ﷺ said, Aja'altani lillahi niddan? Have you made me a partner with Allah? This is tasfiyah, purification. You can't say, Ma sha Allah wa shi'ta. What Allah willed and you willed. He corrected them there and then. He didn't say, wait until we get Islamic State, then we deal with this issue. No! He started there and then correcting the people's faults or errors or incorrectness that they fell into. So what are the Muslims doing nowadays then? Falling into shirk, many of them, unfortunately. In grave worshipping, in wearing talismans, and relying upon other than Allah. You go to places in Africa, in Asia, you see Muslims, those who claim to be upon Islam, doing tawaf upon the grave of certain individual. You don't know who's in there. They claim that he is righteous. How you know? Ahlul Sunnah, we say Allahu A'lam, we say we hope he's in paradise if he's righteous. But did he tell you do this? Did the Prophet say do tawaf around the grave? Did the Prophet say go out to the grave and sacrifice for the dead? Did the Prophet say go to the grave and seek help and ask the people in the grave to protect you from harm? No. Shaykh Salih Sahimi in Masjid al-Nabawi, he said, you see the political activists, if they were to get leadership, like Hizb at-Tahreer, Muhajirun, all of these political activists, if they were to rule in the end, instead of following the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ of leveling the graves to the ground that are high, anyone that's high above the shibr, above a handspan, should be leveled. In the hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, عن أبي هياج الأسدي قال لعلي بن أبي طالب ألا أبعثك على ما بعثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا تدع تمثالا إلا طمسته ولا قبرا مشرفا إلا سويته. Sahih Muslim. Level the graves. He said if these political activists were to get leadership, they will not level the graves like Rasul told them. They would raise the grave or even decorate the graves. Why? Because this is not their call. Their call is not Tawheed comes first. Their call is not Tasfiyah wa Tarbiyah. As Rasulullah taught. أَجَعَلْتَنِي لِلَّهِ نِدًّا. have you made me a partner with Allah? Tasfiyah, purification. But he didn't stop at that. Tarbiyah. قُلْ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ. Say whatever Allah willed on His own. Tasfiyah wa tarbiyah. This is not the da'wah of Hizb at-Tahreer, no Muhajirun, no all of the other groups. Now, you see, before they say, oh look, Wahhabi. Now they're reading the books of Muhammad Wahhab. What happened then? What happened? Yesterday you said one thing, now you're saying something else. Chopping and changing. In Hizb at-Tahrir, they never used to say, they never would quote from Muhammad Wahhab rahimahullah. Rather, they used to call him stooge. They used to speak ill of him. They used to speak bad of him. One of them said to me in this slough, he said, don't you take from Muhammad Wahhab rahimahullah now, because they've grown up now to Muhajirun. Don't you take from Muhammad Wahhab rahimahullah, from his Nawaqid al-Islam, the 10 things which take a person out of Islam. That's all they're worried about. Take people out of Islam. So I said to him, don't you read Muhammad Wahhab's Usul al-Sitta in how to deal with the rulers? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad, which is Sahih, Man arada yansah dhi sultanin fala yubdihi alaniyatan walakin ya'khudh biyadihi wa yakhlu bihi. Whoever wants to advise a ruler, don't do it openly. So what do? Whether they are Hizb at-Tahrir or Muhajirun or Jama'at al-Takfir or whatever Jama'ah from the political activists, what do? In Ramadan, what do? On Ramadan radio, what do? Even in Ramadan. Sallallahu when people want to know how to worship Allah, what do? They're talking about the rulers. This is their da'wah. Politics. This is the truth. We can't hide away from the truth. This is what's happening. Rather than call the people to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, Allah will give you the da'wah inshaAllah. Call the people to worship Allah alone, to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, first and foremost. If the people don't like this talk, you can see, it's clear. It's clear from their manifesto that they don't concentrate on akhlaq, on rectifying the manners of the people, or the prayer of the people, or the hajj of the people, or this is not that important, as important as establishing Islamic State first. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even before he established Islamic State, didn't the verses of Salah come down in Mecca right towards the end of his period in Mecca? Even before the ahkam of Medina. Prophet ﷺ went on a night journey. He was still in Mecca. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله. He was in Mecca. And in Mecca, that was the 13 years that he called to Tawheed. And it wasn't just Mecca. When he arrived in Medina, he established a masjid. From the first things that he established, this is ibadah. And he established the rules and regulations. Right until the end of his life, he's still talking Tawheed. In his deathbed, he said, لَعْنَ اللَّهُ الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَى اتَّخَذُ قُبُورَ أَنْبِيَائِهِمْ مَسَاجِدًا. May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians. They took the places of their prophets' graves as places of worship. أَلَا لَا تَتَّخِذُ قَبْرِ مَسْجِدًا. Don't take my grave as a place of worship. Nobody's saying the rulers are perfect. They make mistakes. And there are those that some of the scholars said they are not Muslim. Like Gaddafi, they said he's not Muslim. Why? Because he said he has a green book that he rules by. Other than the Qur'an. Other than the Qur'an. And Saddam Hussein, even before the Gulf War, they already said, Shaykh bin Baz Rahimahullah already declared him to be a disbeliever, even before the Gulf War. Why? Because he ruled by the Ba'thi regime. The secularist way. As opposed to the Sharia of Allah. The Sharia of Allah is that which must be applied. And we call to that. We call to its application. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. They don't truly believe. حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Until they make you, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a judge between them. ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِمَّا قَضَيْتَ. Then they find nothing, no haraj, no hesitance in accepting your judgments. وَيُسَلِّمُ تَسْلِيمًا. And they submit to it wholeheartedly. to the judgment of Allah. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. The ruling and judgment belongs to Allah. Surah Yusuf. But what did he say afterwards? أَمَرَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهِ. He ordered that none should be worshipped except Him. أَفَحُكْمُ الْجَاهِلِيَّ يَبْغُونَ. Is it the hukm of the Jahiliyyah that they seek? Of ignorance that they seek? Of course, the judgment must be applied. And we call to that, inshaAllah, to establish it. However, that judgment is not only for the rulers, to rule by Allah's law. It is everyone is responsible. The Islamic groups who say that they follow Qur'an and Sunnah, but they don't follow it truly. Qur'an and Sunnah in the understanding of the companions. So what happened to the judgment then of ruling by Allah's law? What happened? What happened with going back to that? So that was the first question. Somebody asked about Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu. We say he's a Sahabi, he's a blessed companion, and the Rafida, the Shia, are the ones that revile him, and the political activists, they revile him. They revile him because of politics, because they say that he used deception and so on. A'udhu billah min dhalik. And they, in fact, the Shia are the ones that invented stories against Muawiyah to show that he tried to deceive his way through leadership. Him and Amr ibn As, his companion. And we say no. These are invented stories by the Shia who hate Muawiyah anyway, radiallahu anh. They hate him anyway. And we say that even in the dispute that occurred, we only say that which is good and we make excuse for the companions. Because the Messenger ﷺ said, إِذَا ذُكِرَ أَصْحَابِ فَامْسِكُوا. When my companions are mentioned, then withhold, don't speak about them. And we say that each and every side they had ijtihad, and one will get double reward and the other one will get one reward. Ali radiallahu anhu would get 2 rewards inshaAllah, for he was right in his affair. But we don't speak of anything bad about the rest of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. As the scholars have mentioned, I'll just mention some of the narrations of the A'imma. Abdulilah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, from the scholars of the Salaf. When he was asked, which of the two is better? Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan or Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was a just ruler who died 101 Hijriya. So he said, the dust gathered in the nose of Muawiyah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is better and superior than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He's not making tanaqqus of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz because he was a just ruler. But to show you how great Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was, just to be a Sahabi is so great. Naam. And also, it was Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, was asked about Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And he said, what should I say about a man who, when the Prophet ﷺ said, Sami' Allah liman hamidah, Muawiyah standing behind him said, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. He prayed behind him. What do you want me to say about a Sahabi who prayed behind Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? And likewise, Imam, the commentator of Tahawiyah, Ibn Abil Izz, he said, Ibn Abdul Izz, Ibn Abdul Salam, he said, the first of the Muslim kings was Muawiyah, and he was the best of the Muslim kings. And Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, he said, in Sir A'lam al-Nubala, Muawiyah is the leader of the believers and king of Islam, yani in his period. And al-Bayhaqi narrated from Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, that he said, the Khalifas, yani the Khulafa, are Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. And it was said to him, what about Muawiyah? He said, there was no one in the time of Ali more deserving of being Khalifa than Ali. And may Allah have mercy on Muawiyah, you see? Only speaking that which is good about Muawiyah, radiallahu anhu. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah, he said, Ahlul Sunnah have agreed that it is obligatory to forbid cursing any one of the companions due to the fighting that took place between them, even if those in the right were known. This is so because they did not fight each other except after considering themselves upon the truth. And Allah, the Most High, has excused the one who errs in striving to reach a correct ruling. Rather, it is established that the one who errs will be rewarded with 1 reward, and the one who is correct in his judgment will receive 2 rewards. So it's not befitting that anyone speaks about Muawiyah radiallahu anhu from the standpoint of politics and starts criticizing him. and not even accepting him as being a companion. And from the standpoint of, oh, he was not just in his ruling. This is the standpoint of the political activist. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Salafiyun who follow that blessed path of Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah, Qala Sahaba, they love all of the Sahaba without exception. And the best of them is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, as-Siddiq. And Umar ibn Khattab, al-Faruq. And Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who held the flag and Allah loves. Naam. And Uthman ibn Affan before him. I said Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman ibn Affan, the one that even the angels are shy in his presence, radiallahu anhu. And you call him an old man. And you say that he didn't have the spirit of Islam in it, in his reign, in his leadership. These are not befitting words. But this stems from a political standpoint, because of putting politics before the Sharia. Putting that politics, looking at just rulers, not just rulers, before looking at what the Sharia says about how we should treat the Sahaba, how we should treat the rulers. Don't do it openly, the correction. But rather, he said, take him by the hand. In that authentic hadith, take him by the hand, secretly, وَيَخْلُو بِهِ, secretly, and advise him. Somebody might say, but I can't advise the ruler, the Muslim ruler who's doing this wrong and that. I can't advise because I'm not able to. Then Allah said, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وَسْعَهَا. On no soul does Allah place a burden more than it can bear. Allah's not going to question you then. He's going to question those who have the ability to do that. Those who are around him, they are to be questioned. وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. They are the ones who are going to be questioned, not you. What are you going to be questioned? In the grave. About this ruler and that ruler? No. In your grave, مَنْ رَبُّكَ مَا دِينُكَ مَنْ نَبِيُّكَ. These are the three questions. Tawheed, Sunnah, and Islam. Tawheed, man Rabbuk. Are you truly worshipping Allah correctly or not? Because Shaykh Salih Fawzan said, it's not easy just to answer Rabbi Allah. If you are upon Tawheed, you'll easily say Rabbi Allah. It's not easy to answer Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you are upon the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can say it easily. And it's not so easy to say and answer Deen al-Islam if you're not upon Islam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and guide our brothers wherever they are. Those who fell into confusion. Because really, a lot of the followers of these groups, they don't know. A lot of them don't know. And they fall into confusion. And they fall into also emotion. We're not happy to see pictures of Muslims being killed wherever they are around the world. We're not happy about that. But this is not the solution. The solution is not to go and emphasize the rulers. The solution is to emphasize ourselves and go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and teach the people Tawheed and Sunnah. Establish the ibadah upon the earth. Allah will give it to you, inshaAllah. Establish it upon your heart, in your heart, upon the correct methodology. Which Muslim does not move, does not feel hurt when he sees pictures or he sees video footage of Muslims being burnt alive by an evil ruler or this one or that one? Would anyone be happy with this? A'udhu billah. Nobody is going to be happy with this. Who believes in Allah and last day, and he believes in the hadith of al-Muslim akhul Muslim. The Muslim is a brother of a Muslim. Nobody is happy to see this and see his Muslim brothers being killed in this way, with their hands tied behind their back and burnt alive, closed in a barn and burnt. Nobody is happy to see this. But this is the humiliation that has befallen the Ummah because of our own hands. The Messenger ﷺ said it. إذا تبايعتم بالعينة. Hadith in Sunan Abi Dawud is sahih. إذا تبايعتم بالعينة. If you deal with usury, عين is a form of usury, riba. How many Muslims now dealing with riba? And we complain about the Muslim Ummah. And we complain about problems. How many Muslims dealing with riba? Mortgages or buying a car on riba, or whatever it is. With credit cards, you miss your payment, riba, interest goes up. إذا تبايعتم بالعينة وتمسكتم بأذناب البقر, and you hold on to the cow's tails. What does that mean? You are, as the scholars explain, you are in touch with the dunya, yani so much. Just like somebody holding on to the cow's tail. Would anyone like to hold to the cow's tail? Nobody, because you don't know what's going on. It's not clean. Nobody. But you are in so much in the dunya like that. So much in the dunya that you hold it. Just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Rum, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. In the hereafter they are غافلون, heedless. But the dunya, they are so much in touch with the dunya. And Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah, explained this verse, and it's in the tafsir. He said that to the extent that if you were to give somebody some coins or gold, he will be able to tell you its value just by holding it in his hand. How much is in touch with the dunya? Yes, this is about maybe £100, or this is about $10. Just by weighing it in his hands, he's so much in touch of the dunya. This is what Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah said. إذا تبايعتم بالعينة وتمسكتم بأذناب البقر ورضيتم بالزرع, and you are content with agriculture, dunya. وتركتم الجهاد في سبيل الله. Which jihad? There are different types of jihad. Jihad of the nafs, jihad of the sword, jihad of da'wah, jihad of the pen. Different types of jihad. You see the Fajr, how many people come for Fajr? And how many people come for Jum'ah? There's something wrong there. It's because the jihad and nafs. We have to strive more in our nafs to reach the masjid. We want to establish Islamic State. We need to start with ourselves, our nafs. Start with that jihad. Jihad of da'wah, calling the people to Tawheed and Sunnah. And jihad of the sword, that is the two types. Offensive and defensive. Offensive, you can't fight offensive jihad unless with the ruler. How we know? In the Qur'an. In the Qur'an, ابعث لنا ملكا نقاتل في سبيل الله. Send for us a king, a leader, so that we can fight in the path of Allah. This is offensive jihad. As for defensive jihad, you don't need a leader. If somebody tries to come in your house, you fight for your honor. And if you die, inshallah, shaheed. However, both of those types of jihad, offensive and defensive, require quwwah. وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ أَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. You have to have quwwah. If you don't have quwwah, then sign a peace treaty or something, do something, make a contract, until you have quwwah. Why? Because just as Rasulullah ﷺ did, he signed peace treaties. He didn't have strength to repel. This is Rasulullah ﷺ. In the early days, he didn't have strength. He made a pact between himself and even the Jews in Medina, that anyone who comes to Medina tries to attack it, they can be repelled. Even though the Jews later shown themselves to be treacherous, they didn't stick to that pact. Prophet ﷺ also is the treaty of Hudaybiyah and other treaties between them and the Muslims. This is allowed. So long as, and you must stick to your treaty. The Muslim is upon his word. He's not deceiving. He doesn't deceive, doesn't lie, doesn't cheat. It's upon his word. These are rules and regulations. If you leave this upon its correct understanding, sallallahu alaykum dhullan, Allah will permit your humiliation. لن ينزعه عنكم, He will not remove it from you. حتى ترجعوا إلى دينكم, until you return to your deen. That's a clear hadith, which is proof of our situation today. It's not because of only the rulers or only this one and that one. It's because of all of us. We are all responsible. But we like to pass the buck, as they say. Pass the buck. Blame the rulers. Of course, if alhamdulillah, there is a righteous ruler who establishes the Sharia of Allah Azza wa Jal, this is khair, this is good. Alhamdulillah. And we're happy to see this. And this is what we all, inshallah, seek. However, to speak about Sahaba radiallahu anhu because of politics, to criticize the Sahaba like Uthman radiallahu anhu because of politics, and to criticize the likes of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu and Amr ibn As because of politics, because you didn't agree with him being just or not just. This is the way of Khawarij. Wasn't it the Khawarij that killed Ali radiallahu anhu? They killed him. From the best of the Sahaba, Allah loves him. Prophet said, tomorrow I'm going to give the flag to the one that Allah loves. Everybody wants that flag because Allah loves. He gave it to Ali radiallahu anhu. He said, where is Ali radiallahu anhu? The next day he said, where's Ali radiallahu anhu? Where is he? They said he's got something in his eye. He's complaining about his eye. Prophet ﷺ put his saliva on his eye and he was cured. SubhanAllah. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he gave him the flag. Allah loves Ali radiallahu anhu. And we love Ali radiallahu anhu. But the Khawarij, they killed him. So don't be surprised when the Khawarij of today, they speak against the ulama, the people of knowledge. Because there's no people of knowledge amongst them. Just like Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said to them, when he went out to them in Nahrawan, he said to them, وَلَيْسَ فِيكُمْ أَحَدٌ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. There is no one from the Sahaba amongst you. 6,000 of them gathered. You know what they said to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu? What did they say to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu? The Mufassir of Qur'an, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the best of the Sahaba. What did they say to him? One of them said, oh look, he's wearing a cloak. He's mocking him. Oh, look at his cloak, what it looks like. Look what he's wearing. Mocking him. You know what Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said to them? And said to this individual who's mocking him because he wore a nice cloak. He said, I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wear better than this. Allahu Akbar. I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wear better than this. And then they had their three arguments. That Ibn Abbas refuted each and every of these three arguments. In the end, 4,000, in one report, 4,000 turned back. Allahu Akbar. And 2,000 remained from the Khawarij, who later on fought the Sahaba. So who are the followers of the Khawarij today? No doubt. What is their trait? Look at the traits of the Khawarij. Speaking against the Muslim leaders. Openly against the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wanting to make khuruj against the Muslim leaders, openly causing havoc and chaos in society, not recognizing and realizing the greater harm that will be caused in doing that. This is the way of the Khawarij. Who is that doing that nowadays? If it is not Hizb-at-Tahreer, Muhajirun, Jama'at al-Takfir, Ikhwan al-Muslimun, who else? Faman? Naam. And the second question about this is answered in what we have mentioned. So now we go back to the tape with Shaykh Albani rahimahullah with Hizb at-Tahreer number 4. And this will not take long inshallah. It's a nice discussion about the importance, again, of going back to the references. But now there's a new type of doubt that the number 4 is coming with. A new type of doubt. And I want you to pay attention carefully, see how Shaykh Albani rahimahullah discusses with them, and how the Shaykh rahimahullah defeats their arguments and clarifies the truth to them. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guides them, especially the followers who don't know any better.
الفرقة الناجية صفته مراكز
ضابط علم الحديث اللي هي
بأنه صحيح وآخر يقول حسن. قلت الحديث المتن الحديث
أقصد السند. ماشي.
طيب سند. طيب
بمثال أجيبها. عندما يختلف ابن حجر رحمه الله عقل الإسلامي استغرب متنا العلماء عليها بالصحة، لكن من حيث المتن في العقل حتى.
Okay, so this is the discussion. The discussion is Hizb at-Tahrir number 4. He says, now this is now, subhanAllah, the Shaykh now has been waiting for a long time. Remember, he's still sitting in the same place. It's one after the other, debating with him. The first 3 gone now. The 4th one, he says, a hadith, maybe the isnad is sahih. The isnad, the chain of narration, is no defect. But the text itself, it doesn't go with my intellect. I can't understand that this, I can't accept with my aql, with my intellect, that this hadith is correct. I can't accept. Because of the reality of the affairs. According to him, his reality. So look how Shaykh Albani rahimahullah discusses with him.
العقل الإسلامي يرى أن الواقع اليقيني
and he calls it the waqi' al-yaqini, the real certain affair doesn't testify to this hadith being accepted. Doesn't testify to this hadith being accepted, even though the isnad is sahih. So look what Shaykh Albani says.
لا ينطبق على النص. وعندما يبحث فيها لا يكون بحث هو أنا قدمت العقل على النص أم لا. مثل هذا ما السؤال
أنا بقول لك
ما هي حدود العقل
لا اسمح لي، لأنك أنت قلت الواقع اليقيني ينكر هذا النص لثابت إسنادا.
نعم
صح؟
نعم.
فهمتم صوابا؟
نعم.
طيب أنا أقول لك الآن الواقع اليقيني، هل العقل يشهد بصحة هذا الكلام؟
العقل يشهد بالنسبة لهذا. نعم بظني يعني وفي اعتقادي.
معليش
نعم.
بتقول أنت باعتقادك أنت ولا باعتقاد؟
So Shaykh Albani said, this واقع اليقيني, يعني the certain event or the certain realization of something, is it based upon your aql or somebody else's aql? Because you could see something as being certain, but somebody else cannot see it as being certain. So it is nisbi. So how can you say that يعني the situation is so certain that we can't accept this hadith, this sahih hadith, as being true, because the situation is so certain that this hadith is wrong? So anyway, he's going to give you an example just so that you can يعني understand exactly what they're saying.
قال كل من يسمع هذا النص
والله أظن أن كل من يسمع هذا النص يرى بأن الواقع يحيل هذا النص.
شو رأيك أمامك واحد بيقول لا؟
Shaykh Albani said, are you saying everybody, all their intellect, يعني, are in testification that situation is certain that this hadith is rejected because the situation certainly testifies that this hadith can't be accepted? And I give you and he will give you an example. The Prophet ﷺ said about the river Nile and the river Euphrates in Africa. The Prophet ﷺ said that they are from Jannah. Now, the Hizb at-Tahreer, he said, number 4, he says, how can I accept this hadith, for example? Because the certain reality, and this is based upon his reality, we can't accept this hadith, even though the isnad is sahih. Even though the chain of narration is authentic, we have to use our aql to reject this hadith, because how can we believe and accept with certainty that the Euphrates River and the river Nile is from paradise? How can we accept? This is what he says in the discussion. So Shaykh Albani rahimahullah is going to answer him. And he says to him, yani just before that discussion, he says to him, I'm another person who has my own aql, and I testify against you that the reality of the certain events clearly prove that this hadith is authentic and that it's true. Because from the ghaibiyat, it's from the unseen, and we as Ahl Sunnah, we have to believe in the unseen. So long as the hadith is sahih, we have to believe in the unseen. We can't go away from the unseen. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Who are they? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Those who, first and foremost, believe in the unseen. So how do you know how it got there in the first place? How do you know and reject that the Euphrates and the river Nile came from paradise? Or from paradise? Do you know the reality of the affair? Totally to reject this hadith because of your intellect?
معليش الآن أنت تدعي دعوة الواقع هل أنت أحط علما بالواقع؟
So, beautiful question from Shaykh Albani rahimahullah. He said, you are now saying that you know the certain reality of an affair, of the waqi', of a present situation. And this example of the Nile, and you're saying you know exactly about this situation. I'm asking you, do you know, does your knowledge or your aql, does it testify to the complete, a complete knowledge of everything regarding this or not? Of this affair or not? Subhanallah. Isn't our aql limited, ya ikhwan? Isn't our eyesight limited? We can't even see beyond this wall. We can't even hear what's beyond this wall. Our intellects are limited. So how can we use intellect to reject the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How can we use our intellect to reject the unseen that is authentically reported?
قولها صراحة ولا تنعدم من غيرك. قولها صراحة، هل هذا الواقع أنت أحطت به علما؟ قل نعم قل لا، أنت حر.
So say yes or no. Are you fully aware of all the situation regarding the reality of what's happening in the present day, in the present time, regarding anything, whether it's the river Nile and the river Euphrates being from paradise, or whether Shaykh Albani uses another example. Allah tells us sab'a samawat, 7 heavens. Many scientists, they reject this. And they use their intellect. They say, what do you mean many? Because they don't understand it, so they reject it. 7 earths. They reject it. What does it mean 7 earths? So they reject it. Based upon their intellect. But we say to them, do you know the reality of everything in the heavens above you? No. So how can you reject something that your intellect is limited to even understand its affair totally? They can't even understand what the black hole is. I saw a documentary about the black hole. Every time they calculate to find out what the black hole is, it comes infinity. Wallahi. Every time they want to know what the black hole is. They said it's a star. It was there in this place. All of a sudden it's not there anymore. So they called it the receding star that became a black hole. That's why they call it black hole. It's not there anymore. What's there? Emptiness, space. They did calculations, go back, see where this is going. Nothing. Infinity. Confusion. So, do they know everything about the stars above us? No. Because you and me, all of us, our aql is limited. So how can we use aql to understand the sharia of Allah Azza wa Jal? How can we use aql as the basis of accepting and rejecting hadith of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? This is dangerous. Yeah, I've already listened to it. So I'm giving you the background to... No problem. It's all mentioned, and I've already listened to the whole series. So I'm giving, because of time, I'm giving you exactly as it is mentioned in the series.